Yeah, let's start. I'm going to start by just saying how the three of us came to be here. I'm mainly a sculptor, and about a year ago, almost a year ago, I was having a studio visit in Cairo with a friend, and I was describing various works I've made in the past, and he pointed out how physical I am, like how much movement I make when I'm describing my work. And then we were thinking about how much movement there is kind of embedded in my work in different ways. Like the form, like for example, at the moment I'm weaving, and that requires a huge amount of kind of repetitive, quite strenuous physical activity. And then also a lot of the forms I make are decided, like the proportion of them, the scale, and also kind of their character is decided by my physical proportions, my height, my arm span, my peripheral vision, like the field of my peripheral vision, things like that. So they're they're kind of a remnant of my physical character. And then also when I'm describing them, because of the way they were made, I use a lot of gestures. So he said, and we started talking about how I should consider thinking about how I could develop my work in dance. And I already knew Olive's work through a friend, Mina and Tim, who are mutual friends of ours. So I started looking at her work a bit more online and approached her. And then we met in November when I was last in England, and we had a few days in the studio together, and we did a bit of Qigong. And I'd already heard about Meshka, which is the martial arts hall that I now go to in Cairo. Just before I met Olive, just through a chance meeting, I heard about this martial arts place. So when I got back, I started going to classes, and Mercedes is one of my teachers, and very quickly really fell for it and have been going ever since. I do Qigong and Tai Chi. And Mercedes is going to tell us about her involvement in Meshka and her training there. So that's why we're here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're going to start with asking Mercedes a little bit about her experience at Meshka and her practice in martial arts.
Yeah, so I was just sort of interested in like how Qigong sort of like how you started and why you started Qigong as a practice.
Okay, so well, coming back to those times, I was at the time writing my PhD in Saudi literature. Okay, so at that point I was searching for movement because I've always been a person who was dancing since I am 6 years old. I've been like passing through many types of dances, especially flamenco and Spanish dance. And at the time I was in Cairo, and I was in contact with the dance, but I really was searching for something else, especially the martial arts. And a friend of mine, a dancer, told me, look, there is this school, Meshka, you could go in the mornings, there are some classes of Qigong and Tai Chi. So well, I went there, and the first Qigong and Tai Chi class, I was amazed of how strong my body felt after this class, and how rooted I felt, that after doing it, I came back home and I wrote 6 pages of my PhD like straight away. So I was surprised that, okay, how strong do my mind feels, do my body feels, that I can go back home and I can have the focus in this chaos, because Cairo is a chaos city, as you know. How can I be very focused to bring all what I want to express down? So that's how I started at Meshka. So I became addicted to this feeling, this internal feeling that produces the Qigong and the Tai Chi. I will explain why. And then I started to be more like, I started to go more usual there, like we started to commit. And then I decided to go for the full-time program because it made me very, very happy and different in the way the ways I was moving as well. I was experiencing movement from a very different view that I had before, you know? When I started the moving, I started by doing external movement, just following a bit what the teacher was saying, but not feeling really what I am doing. Like I just following someone and it is external and so on. But somehow when I started to practice Qigong and Tai Chi with this, as you said, Georgina, and I think it's very important for the body, start to recognize repetitive movements that we are not used to do it, that we start to do different movement with a quantity, a new quantity and a new quality, okay? But because this is what Qigong searches for, like the quantity of qi that you can store in your dantian, in your center of gravity, and how you lead this qi, this energy, in your body. So how this qi is going down through your perineum and it's expanding and it's going through your spine to nourish your brain, and how you can lead this with your brain, with your mind. So all of these bring a different quality in your body in the time you move, because you connect to another layer. You just not connect only with the body and external movement. You open certain tissues in the body by coiling your hand, by moving with this repetitive movement, but with fullness. So you start to feeling your joints, they open, they stretch, your mind is stretched. You find yourself that your mind stretches in the room. Another people are practicing with you. So you synchronize with them in this movement, but then suddenly, like your mind does a click, and suddenly you are not anymore in the external space, but suddenly you start to feel this movement and feel this fullness and feel this coiling inside of you. And you made all of this part of yourself. And it's beautiful to connect to this movement, because it's not only movement, it's like you connect with your heart. And you start doing without doing, no? It's like a repetition without, and then this, of course, the martial art are repetitive movement, but then you can apply in the free things. When I dance now, I can put all what I know from the Qigong in my dance quality, and it completely changed that.
Wow.
I don't know if you relate a bit, Olive, because you are a dancer and a choreographer, and you have done Qigong, as I knew from Georgina. Maybe you also can relate and can tell us about what you do with or how you use Qigong in your dance with other dancers, how you transmit this, and how, like in a performance, or not only the performance, in the rehearsal itself, you can bring this level of energy. You can bring all of this in an energetic level, not only movement, not only body, but energetical level.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like the way that you speak about it, I'm like, I want to do Qigong every day.
this is good.
It's really inspiring in that sense. And like my experience with it, I was in an improvisation festival maybe 6 years ago, and I went for a couple of years in a row, so it was every summer. But there was a teacher there who trained in Qigong, and we did it every morning before the day. So I just picked up a few things. So I mean, really, like I did three weeks of learning with this teacher in total. But I took the things home that I sort of like that resonated with me, and then I just repeated them, and I just tried to remember what it was that sort of stuck with me. And it was really just like I mean, I was auditioning at the time, like auditioning for companies and things, and it was just really a tool to ground me. It grounded me entirely, and it took everything away from the aesthetic and just sort of like honored. There's like one where it was sort of honoring the internal and external space, and and that felt really like important for what I was putting my body through at that time. But yeah, it was really to sort of center me. It centered me in terms of like the chaos and like the anxiety and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely something that I've continued like as a way of bringing, when I was doing choreographic like processes, we would do a little bit of qigong in the morning to sort of like bring everyone together, to ground everyone. But yeah, my knowledge of it is limited in that sense, which is why it's such a pleasure to talk to you and to also hear things that Georgia said in relation to what she's learned. But yeah, the sort of like taking away from the aesthetic and really like honoring that sort of like internal space has really continued within all of my practice. Yeah.
Before I left Cairo a couple of weeks ago, I was, because since November I missed one, didn't I? And I sent you a text and I was like, Patty, I'm not well, I'm not at Mashka, I feel weird. But since then I've basically gone to all the classes twice a week. And now, because I'm in England and then I'm away again, I'm hardly going to be at Mashka for 4.5 months. And that feels really strange and tricky. And before I left, it was my last class with Matt Moon, one of the other teachers. And I said, I'm not going to see you for months and months, any kind of tips of what I should do to keep myself going while I'm away. And I kind of expected him to say, well, it's good to practice the tiger, that's a good thing to focus on. And, really don't try and focus on the qua and these quite technical things. But some of the things relating back to what you said about kind of how it can keep you centered, he said, practice every day if you can, but also just throughout your day, like there are various kind of principles of that we do that you've taught me that I find really useful, like the idea of, from my first class, I remember it was with Taha, the guy who founded Qigong, and he was talking about, he makes this noise, a kind of tuk noise, which is to help you to hang from the ceiling and let your weight kind of hang like a marionette. And even that, sometimes I find kind of in a crouch, when you're stressed and you realize you're kind of in a crouch. And now, the idea to tuk from the ceiling, so you straighten and you let your bones kind of hang down. And also, I love part of the reason with Mercedes, we do a lot of, with you, we do, at the moment it is spring. So Qigong is a seasonal martial art. So in the spring, we do movements that concern the E, which is to do with the gaze. So focusing on the gaze. And I've been finding that really useful in the last few weeks since I got back to London, because again, when you're kind of stressed and you're kind of in a crouch and you're kind of looking at the ground, or you're like making notes in a book, just to have a language and a few physical movements that remind you to look around you, like what you were saying, your eyes, you can open into the space and into the world, and remember that you are here. I find so useful. So that's even with grief experience.
Cool.
And another thing that struck me so far between you two was when you were saying, I didn't go home and write 6 pages, but I definitely remember that first class. I thought, I really want to carry on. And now more and more, I think repetition is a really interesting thing between the three of us, because I do a lot of repetitious movement. Your practice is hugely based on repetition. Kind of improvised repetition. And Qigong and Tai Chi, it's like there are these layers of doing the same thing, but it changing
completely.
Yeah.
Actually, we talk in Chinese about the post-heaven and the pre-heaven. The post-heaven is the repetitive movement that we do when we do any type of art. I do also like dance flamenco. So we need to know the basic, the foundation, and also in the other martial art that we have in the school. We have to know this post-heaven movement. Post-heaven, like the movement that we know in the after the pre-birth, no? Because the pre-birth is connected to our emotions and to the heart, to something related to the heart. So the things that we know after it, when we get born and we grow up, we start to know things from our environment and other things. So this repetitive move that we decide to choose in our life as these arts are important, because this is going to be the root of our foundation in our arts, to be able later on, because as long as we repeat, our body feels, and the more deep is this feeling, the more we can stretch with this movement, open to them when it comes in terms of improvisation, you know? So when it comes in terms of, okay, do your free style, do your free footwork, go and do your free contact improvisation with someone, you are more, your body is more open to connect and to listen with the external space, to connect because you are connected already with these internal feelings that you can put it outside, and you can use them because you are so connected. You can use it that if you are empty in that moment, it will happen. Yeah. So you connect with that perfect move every time. Every time I know that I have my foundation and I rely on this, and then I empty so that I can receive from what is outside. This happened in the contact improvisation, for example. Olive, you can say, for example, if I am dancing and I am for example, the teacher say to me, okay, improvise. And then I go to one of my partners and then I touch, and then I've been actually experimenting with myself, that I am able to open to these spaces to other person to enter in my space, and I invite it from there.
Totally. Well, it's because, just like the words attention, listening, and intention, like those
intention, exactly,
where you're putting your attention, which you're listening to. It's like an internal language that you're sort of not an internal language, but like a body language that you're learning as you would speech or whatever. And those things, then you use it in relation to another person, and then that's that all of those things that you're learning solo are then also aiding how you communicate with someone, but without language, but and through just pure physical communication, like touch or proximity or speed, all of these sort of things that helps you relate to someone.
Something I can make a link, because I know I've been taught by Mercedes and I've seen your performances, so I know anyway, is that one thing I find really interesting about the Tai Chi classes, because Qigong is a solitary, I mean, it's not solitary because, as you say, there's a kind of feeling in the room when we're all doing something together, but it doesn't involve partner work. Whereas Tai Chi is as we learn it's called Tai Chi training, the classes, and it's our classes are 2 hours long, and the second hour is partner work. And one thing I really enjoy about it and find I'm really keen to learn more and more about is how it's very listening, and the class feels really companionable, doesn't it? There's a really special atmosphere, I think. But at the same time, the training is training for martial application. So it's it's ultimately a way to fight, isn't it? And
right, exactly. And it's very, very important to develop this sense of opponent, because this is one of the things in martial arts, very important, to develop this sense of opponent and to put the intention and the eyes, because with this, you are going to lead the energy towards your opponent. So you learn how to lead your internal feeling to your opponent. That's why it's so important, as you say in the beginning, Olive. I really like that how you use the Qigong to ground, to root. Why? Because in the Qigong exercise, in the Qigong, Tai Chi Qigong that we have also in Mesca, we practice first with our own, like we have some practice standing up, rooting with there is a point on the sole of the foot called Yon Chuan, which is the kidney one, and it's related to the wood element in Chinese medicine. And this point is connected to the earth, and you can breathe through this point. They are practicing the fourth and the fifth breathing in martial art techniques, so that we can breathe with this point on the sole of the feet, together with our palms, and together with the point Georgina was talking about before, about how Taha was telling us there's a stretch the line up and down, so that we can connect with our Bahuay point, the reunion of the 100 points, and together with the sole of our foot, so that we can be in this state between the heaven and the earth and feel our chi, our energy. Okay, so that all of these become together. So that's why it roots you, because it roots you and you understand, okay, there are like up and down, there are directions. So I get my central equilibrium so that my mind also relax.
Nice.
It's able to be relaxed, it's able to be grounded.
Yeah.
And then so we start with that solitary work, and then we go into these partner kind of different partner relationships.
And within Tai Chi training?
Yeah, within the Tai Chi training.
Yeah.
And one thing I enjoy about that is so it's very kind of kind and responsive, but at the same time there is this martial element, and I love it. I really enjoy it when in a class, when the teacher or one of the kind of senior students or that one of the more experienced students, you guys kind of show, that they kind of pick up the pace to show how this could be martially applied. And sometimes like Mercedes is like really like thrown me a bit, And but the point I wanted to make was that there's this amazing kind of emotional ambiguity or like subtlety, because it's at the same time kind, but also kind of assertive, and where you are yourself, and you are
exactly.
That was why I wanted to make the connection. Is I went to see a performance that Olive did in November, and she choreographed it, and there were 5 dancers on stage. And I've seen quite a lot of dance. When I lived in London years ago, I used to go and watch a lot, and I think dance as an art form has a tendency to be quite emotionally clear. A lot of ballet has a narrative which is quite kind of happy, sad, lonely, a party, there's quite a kind of repertoire of quite clear emotion. Whereas Olive's work was amazing, because I felt like the emotion was the content, and the character of what was going on between the 5 dancers was so subtle and so shifting that sometimes there was a point when it felt so grim, like there was such sadness on the stage, and then it kind of brightened without me even noticing it, which felt so realistic, because that is sometimes how it feels in life, doesn't it? You have a real low patch, and then suddenly things just feel a little bit less
absolutely
shitty without you really knowing why. And I think there's a similar thing with in the Tai Chi classes, that there's a kind of subtlety of what's going on between 2 people,
yeah, absolutely,
exactly.
Which is just so fascinating. And what we were saying earlier about this kind of level of repetition and experience that seems kind of simple but is endlessly interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, just like the layers, like I mean my work is improvisational, so there's so many options and you have to make choices. But the more that you offer a simple task, and then it's layered and layered and layered, and that's kind of what my work is. You do one thing, but then you layer and you layer and you layer and you layer. So they're holding like lots of different things and have many different options to choose from. But that kind of offers some sort of beautiful ambiguity within what you're watching and what they're experiencing. But yeah, I'm really interested in doing without the doing, because in order to achieve that kind of performance, there needs to be that they're practicing the movement and not performing the movement.
This is the thing.
This is what also I find really interesting in terms of what Georgina was saying of people who've been doing qigong for ages, that they sort of seamlessly do it and have like shedded the sort of like the unnecessary things that the body doesn't need to necessarily carry to perform or to do the movement, not perform it. But it's exactly the same as mine. You have to shed them from aesthetic or from worrying about what they look like, or and that's like a whole process of repetition and practice. And I guess it's a similar thing.
Yeah, maybe if I just say very quickly, just before we started this Zoom meeting, I was saying to Olive that when you go to classes, I find it really interesting that like lots of the beginners like me, the movements and the kind of the character of the movement is more kind of, we tend to make bigger movements and they're more kind of obvious and more emotional in a way sometimes, whereas I think I really enjoy watching lots of the senior students or people. There's a kind of it's the movements themselves tend to be smaller or more subtle, and also it's like they could, you know, that thing like people there's a Buddhist monk that I listen to a lot of his talks, and he you know, this emphasis that you can meditate anywhere. You can meditate for a minute in a supermarket queue, and I find it really interesting watching some of the more experienced students at Mashkas, because it's like they could either stand still or they could do the tiger, you know, or they could, you know,
or you can practice with a partner.
It's like one or the other, and one is as simple as the other, you know. So so there's just kind of stillness and then movement, rather than a kind of, right, here we go, I'm going to do some qigong now, you know. Now I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it as big as I can, you know. So that's what this thing about like not performing a movement, just doing, and as you say, it's inside you, and then you can be empty while you do it.
And it's very, very interesting all what you are saying from the, as you say, Georgina, from the martial application. Is very interesting, that part in the Tai Chi. And I think this is why we put it in the last hour, because in the first hour we try to connect first with the qigong, with the stretches, twisting, bending, and so on, so that the body opens. And then the Tai Chi Qigong has the goal for bringing your body more awareness in, as I was saying, like suspending your head from the ceiling, be rooted from your Zhongchuan point. This also opens your mind, stretches the mind, and also softens your body, so that your body is open and your Yi, your wise or wisdom mind, is able to lead the Qi towards later on the applications. So you are gonna be able to put your Yi, you know, like settle your mind and be calm and be in a state of softness with yourself, of of relaxing mood, so that later on I can bring this with my partner. And through this application, I can put this internal gene, internal force outside. but only then when I am relaxed and empty. Okay, only then, so that I understand how that is work with my partner, how I can bring my partner out of her roots, because I do understand myself, I can understand the other person. So only then you can understand both parts and the space around you. And it's very interesting talking about the G, how it leads and so on in Qigong. They talk the G as the wisdom mind, okay? The wisdom mind is gonna lead all your movements. So it's related to your eyes. So there where I put my eyes and my intention, I go, and my body will follow.
Cool.
Only then my body will be relaxed and loose so that it's able to follow. So where I lead my G, my energy, my Qi is gonna go. And actually to reach this state, it's very important also to know the character of the G. In Chinese society, the character has two characters. One is related to the emotional mind, the Xin. But they don't consider that the emotions are a problem. Like it's inside of this character, because when you reach the wisdom mind that you are able to lead with this, you are gonna soft, or you are gonna calm yourself or calm this emotional mind. So the Yi, your logical mind, that like it's considered, is gonna be able to lead this Xin. But this Xin is gonna be the motor of your life, because in the end, your emotions are related to your heart. You need them. You need this heart in yourself. So the Xin will be like the motor force in your life, and the Ji will be the wise mind, or the horse that is gonna lead this emotional mind. Okay, so it's gonna not control, but it's gonna lead it, so that this emotional mind does not enter into disturbance, into a scattered mind, that I lose suddenly my awareness in my body. I know, like suddenly I disconnect from my body and I am outside more than inside. No.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting also to know about the concept, because to know about the theory of Tai Chi, to know about the concept, is more clear inside, that you can start applying in your exercise, in your sequence. Georgina, when we were doing the sequence, we were in Buddha stance, presence. We are in empty state. When we say Tai Chi Chi She and we start our sequence, we start to lead our mind, our wise mind, so that once we have calm our Shin mind, our emotional mind is calm, is in our center, we can start to lead. And I lead my intention. I lead my intention towards the right. I lead my intention towards the left. And my body start to separate and start to do coiling. That means yin-yang movement. So the Buddha stance, the emptiness, transform into a yin-yang, no? And this is beautiful, because how you can, in your dance, in your martial applications, in your daily life, how can you come to this state of presence, which state, okay, and differentiate the state that is called in Chinese Wuji, and how you can divide it into different movements. We, our bodies, every time, every day, when we get up, we are mostly yin. And then during the day, our body transforms in yang, so that we are able to go out to work, to do our activities. And later on at night, it transforms again into yin and yang. So this is important also to take into account.
Can you explain, because in the movements in the class, I think I understand the difference between yin and yang in,
Yes.
when we're doing the yin and yang circles. So yin is out, yin is in and yang is outward, right? But how, when you talk about it, is like in the morning, your character is mainly yin, and then kind of the necessity of the world requires that you kind of shift to the other half of the circle. Like, can you explain a bit about the two characters? Because I think I only understand them in terms of like in the class, that yin is the listening one. So if you're in a partner, the yang hand kind of leads, and the other person kind of
receive. Exactly. So you wanted me to explain in terms of the class, in terms of the martial application, or in terms of
I think quite like a lot of people, probably like most people, I know the phrase like yin and yang, you know?
Because yin and yang are many yin and yangs, but the thing is, compared to what? If we are in the class doing the exercises, we are doing our outside circle, which is yang, because this is the manifested energy, no? Yang is more manifest outside, more fiery, sunny. It's connected to all of this. And yin is more internal, goes inside, from outside to inside. It's like as what it happens in our bodies when we go to sleep. We compress all the energy that we had during the day, compress it in the body.
Okay, I think even that.
So you understand what I mean, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to ask about the sort of the role it has in activating the body for seasons, and for, you know, it's in its medicinal sort of sense, you know, how it's preparing its body for what it's going to go through, and how that's a sort of how it's quite metaphorical in terms of how one moves through the world or moves through their life. So yeah, I just wondered if you had anything to say about that, and in terms of the images or the references. And
well, we were talking about the tiger. So now we are in the interseason still. Interseason is related to the element of the earth, but we are gonna put the example from the tiger, because you have been experienced that, Georgina. The tiger is connected to the wood element. And in the beginning of 15th of February, the Chinese society considered that the spring starts, 15th of February, okay? So we start there, and we start with our movement of the tiger. So in the movement of the tiger, there are many tissues related to, and many different twisting and bending, especially related to the movement of the tiger. The tiger, either in Qigong or like even in Shaolin, represents the potence, the force, it's a bit fiery, but here is represented by the movement of the wood. The movement of the wood is related with the organs, the liver and the gallbladder. The liver is an organ yin, and the gallbladder is its viscera, the organ yang. Okay, so the viscera is always yang. The yin organs, like the liver, the heart, the lungs, the spleen, and there is and the kidneys. Okay. This would be the yin organs. So we do movement that are gonna lead the energy, our energy, to certain stretches that stimulate the energy of this organ, so that we can harmonize it, and we can make them to function at optimal level. If there is, for example, my liver is stagnated, or even for people that has depression, Qigong is very, very, very important, and especially practicing the tiger is very nice for releasing this stagnation of the Qi energy, okay? Because the liver, when we are frustrated, when we have a lot of anger, especially in the spring, all of this comes out suddenly. Out of the sudden, we are like, because all this yin that we have been accumulated during the winter comes out suddenly in a yang energy up that is generated from the liver movement, from the liver, okay? So comes out, and suddenly we have this this period in spring that we are very tired, but also very frustrated, but also very, it's like, I don't know if you experimented that before, but we have this, I don't know, like shaking a bit in the spring, we are shaking. So it's very interesting how this type of qigong can harmonize this in our body, and how can it's gonna open our meridians, our principal meridians, so that the qi can flow in every part of our body and can go inside of our organs. Also, it's very important, we didn't talk about the breathing. How we put is the most important thing. So how you calibrate your yi mind, how you make your shin, your emotional mind in place through your breathing. Breathing is very important. In Qigong Tai Chi, normally we start for the beginners with the normal breathing, normal abdominal breathing, but then we pass through the reverse abdominal breathing. So, but this is with the time. And the reverse.
On the public, do you ever teach that in the public classes like I go to, or is that something that you leave for the full-time program that Mercedes did?
It's more like you start to understand. In the public happens when you have passed a little time, like with regulating your breathing. Because I remember when I started, I had a problem. I didn't know how to coordinate my breathing. I was mostly nose breathing. So I started to normal breathing, so how to abdominal normal breathing. So I inhale and my abdomen expand, and I exhale and my abdomen withdraw. And with time, I understand what this reverse abdominal means through the full-time program especially, but also through the classes, little by little in the end. Before starting the full-time program, I started to understand more, because the reverse breathing is to release more the yin manifestation outside when it comes in terms of sense of opponent, in terms of manifesting your power outside through your limbs. So that's when you become much more aware of what this breathing means.
Yeah.
It's when you inhale, it will be when you inhale, your abdomen, instead of expanding, it goes in, and then you release and expand out to release your force against an opponent.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry, it is starting the conversation. I'm not hearing well.
Oh, sorry. It takes some thinking about, I think, but that's a hot, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
it would have a huge effect on the way you move, basically.
Yeah, but I can see how, we pick up patterns all the time of holdings of tensions that are, in terms of how we breathe or what we hold or whatever. So I guess it's just like a practice of releasing a certain pattern which you had to go through, and then you like rewrite the pattern in your brain and physically, and then you reset it to the way that you could do it then.
Yeah. And how do you, for example, you use it when it comes in terms of the dance, of the rehearse, and like in terms of the choreography? How do you relate all together? For example, like to start with routine, but how do you bring all these elements together in a choreography, Olive?
I mean, we spend a lot of time together.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah, there's a real intention of how we spend time in the room together, and we move a lot together, and we kind of move consistently. So we do a lot of moving without stopping in a way. There's always resting that's always available, but you learn to work independently, but in a group sort of setting. So there's a lot of focus on how you use your eyes. So there's a sort of improvisation technique, which I thought we could do today actually, through a teacher called Leah Majorovic. She's mentored me for a long time. And she taught me these ways of seeing, and this ways of seeing exercise. And it's just different ways of using the eyes in relation to the body. But it completely changes how you read an improvisation or read a performance, for example. So we go through lots of different processes together, but it's how they're relating to each other, but independently. So
Okay.
there's like a huge emphasis on learning where people are in the room without looking at them, so proprioceptively through your ears, to sort of avoid collision, to be aware of composition, so like how people are in the space where you haven't been for a while. So there's like lots of things you're sort of like activating, but you have to do it gradually, otherwise it's an overwhelm of information. But the overwhelm of information is the thing that is the key that I found within my practice, is that when you overwhelm someone with lots of information in this setting, then they get lost, which is freeing, because they're so lost that they abandon things. And then you see people you see them lose that sort of inhibition or something, and that creates something very powerful to watch, because it's a practical thing. You're simply just overwhelming someone with instruction, but then they stop thinking about what it is they're doing and they just do, which comes back to the
Yeah. It's very interesting when you say that you practice a lot, that you know each other. I think this is very important, especially what we live in Mezcá, in the school, that we are almost in the full time, we are the whole day together. We cook together, we eat together, we sleep in the same room for resting before the classes, we practice together. And then, are you hearing me? So coming back to this interesting point that Olive was talking about, the importance of being together, of sharing a space. And for example, when it comes in terms of doing Shaolin together, our sequences in Shaolin, we have many different parts of what the artists conform. But one part that we have to learn by heart, some sequences. So normally when we are all together, Taha says to us, okay, now all the people that know this sequence, you are gonna perform it all together. So this shared energy, like it comes like as one. And then we don't, like, we just have to empty. When he said Jubei, preparation, we just have to empty and follow this energy. Nothing is bad and good because we are in a chi level of energy. So just synchronize with the others. Just synchronize and don't be scared. Just open yourself to this emptiness. Rely in what you learned before, because you have your forms from your heart, from the repetitive repetition that we have been having in the dojo already. We have this in our heart. So that you open, in the moment he said Jubei, preparation, and go. And it's interesting how you coordinate suddenly everything, like how you coordinate with the others and with the others is unbelievable. And this happened. At some point, this happened. And you don't have to think about. You just have to open your body for this to happen. And it's beautiful. I love that moment.
I look forward to
because
it.
I had this high frequency with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I literally wrote synchronicity because it is.
I don't know if it's cutting again.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Oh, you're back now, I think.
Yeah, no, just the word
Yes,
synchronicity. Just the idea of people. I mean, that there has to be a level, a shared level of sort of trust and of sort of engagement,
yes.
and a belief. You know, everyone's there with intention and wanting to do that. And with that comes something really powerful, which is people being together in time, or just in synchronicity to some extent, even if it's not exactly the same. Yeah, I just completely agree. It's very powerful.
I have
very powerful.
I have a question which is to both of you, I think. I mean, one, from my own experience, one thing I really love about being at Meshka is, and the classes, it's that sometimes you have a time of, you know, even if it's just from one side of the room to the other when we're doing one of the movements, of absolutely no distraction and a feeling that you're not thinking. That what I think, it made me think of it when you said about this emptiness and readiness
Completely.
and total focus, and that is bliss, really, isn't it? I find, like, and I wondered, you know, you were talking about how interesting and important it is to know the kind of philosophy behind the martial arts, you know, whichever the one you're doing, because the logic like leads the movement and the way you do the movement. And I was wondering how big in all that philosophy and the kind of the ideas behind the movements you do, how much this kind of total absence of distraction is discussed, you know, in the teaching over many hundreds of years, because it feels, is it that but is that like recognized in the history of martial arts as a really important function of it? Or do you think we find it particularly enjoyable now because we have become more distracted? Do you think it's like more a part of the contemporary condition that we find that a really important part of doing martial arts?
Yeah, nowadays, of course. And you know how like we are immersed in our thoughts, and the first thing in the Tai Chi is to calm down these thoughts that comes in the mind. Calm down, boom, by placing your emotional mind that is thinking tomorrow I have to do this. We are more connected to the tomorrow and to yesterday than now, when now is what is more important. Now, to empty now. So the idea of the Tai Chi and the Qigong of standing, just standing, releasing, loosening up, it brings you to this state of now. That's why you connect to that feeling. Just by stretching up and down, you connect with the earth and the heaven. Halas. You don't need anything else.
Right.
That's one reason I think that there are lots of courses for children at Meshka, and I think those children are going to be so interesting as adults because they've had this amazing education. And
wonderful. Yes,
I think I'm, you know, beginning to learn. It's what you said about the horse of the mind, you know, that kind of you can control. I really feel like
I wouldn't say control. I would say more than lead. It can lead. It can lead, not control, because if you control, you are already tense and you resist. I would say more. I like more like you know how to lead. Yeah. Your mind is gonna be the will that is gonna lead your motor force, your emotions.
Isn't even that interesting? Isn't that like an indication of how we feel about things? This is one thing I love about leaving Meshka of a Monday or Wednesday morning, is that I feel like the things I want to do that day are things I want to do, rather than things I need or should or have to do.
Exactly, because you are choosing.
Yeah.
To do that, you are choosing. You are putting yourself in another place of choosing. Yeah. What would you like? What would you do now? What you want to do today for yourself, and you are choosing to do that instead of doing anything else for yourself.
So good.
It's so it's so good. Yeah, and and it's very interesting also, like the capacity of being then and breathe. Just with the breathing, we calm down our stress, our emotional stress, or emotional about our like worriness in life, just by breathe. Like you are worried, suddenly like no, take a breath. This like give a banana to this ape that is out of the mind. So yeah.
I have one last question, which I'd be really interested. Like, obviously, I'm going to ask it. I wonder for both of you, if you sometimes feel a frustration that your years of experience and the subtlety of your practice and you've both trained in lots of different fields, so you have these kind of interlocking fields of knowledge, and just through this conversation and through my interest in both of your work, I was thinking last night, I wonder if either of you feel frustrated sometimes that the like movement practices or dance are kind of limited by a lot of newcomers to a way of kind of not self-help, but kind of wellness, or I mean, basically, what I've learned at Meshka and what I do with you makes me feel more capable as a person. It makes me feel less afraid, more enthusiastic, more committed, less distracted, and these are all really valuable things for me to feel. But sometimes I think that what both of you do, for example, is so much more complicated than that. It's not just about like enthusiasm versus fear and calmness and rooting. It's about more than that, isn't it? Like your practice of Qigong and Shaolin and Chinese medicine, there are all these interlocking, like Chinese medicine is like worlds within worlds, isn't it? It's so intricate. And your training is so you've gone through such a intricate and also personal path to like decide your practice.
Yeah.
I wonder if sometimes you're like, oh, but it's so much more complicated than that. Slithering newcomers, I'm not just trying to calm you down,
No, I actually
do you see what I mean?
No, I do, but it's not like that at all. I'm like, everyone get involved in this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like taste it, feel it. Like even if it's just like an hour in the whole of your life, I'm glad that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, all of these practices, I guess it is complex and like nuanced, and you understand it in such a specific way. But that's because it's the work that I do and the work that I make. You know what I mean? Like these are tools that you gain that are helping you to do the work that you make, and these are the things that help. You again make choices about what you sort of what you end up sort of holding. I don't know. It's like what remains, and like what remains in terms of the use that it has in aiding what it is that you do. So no, I think like all newcomers, I'm like, eat the cake, like
even if it's a simple cake,
even if
eat
it's
the cake.
a tiny nibble of a crumb, I'm like, get it. I don't know about your thoughts on that.
I think I understand well. The question is about if I don't get frustrated with myself when I do, it comes in terms of practice.
No, I think more like if you get frustrated with,
or
with people
who are learning it for the first time, or
in the classes, you mean? No, actually, no. Not frustrating, I would say. No, it makes me more motivated to help them to make them like I try to motivate them, so that they like to motivate them in a sense that no worries, everyone is capable of doing this. We have these tools and you are gonna able to use them when it comes the time, so that we are gonna learn step by step. One step today, one step tomorrow, as I learned and as Olive also learned.
Yeah.
It's a toolkit. It's basically, you know, as like a painter and decorator or a builder, you know, you have
Exactly.
just simply giving someone a new tool to have with them in their toolkit to go on. And I find that the same with, you know, sort of talking therapies or physical therapies or anything, that these are just, they're like shining. You're shining and getting new tools as you learn more.
Yeah.
Basically.
I was thinking about it last night, and this kind of idea of, I wonder if they feel like they're you know, by they I mean you two, is kind of limited or simplified too much. But as a teacher myself, sometimes when I teach art, I would never think like, these people don't know enough art history to understand making this sculpture out of cardboard. I mean, why would you? But it's just, yeah.
I think the most important thing in all this art is encourage people. Everyone has his own potential. They all have, and the people have potential that, wow, I discover many of my students, they have like beautiful, you know, movement, beautiful posture, beautiful minds, you know, way of doing things. So in the practice, when I train with them or when I was giving classes to you, Georgia, I try to encourage all of you, like, so that you can reach also this potential.
It's so, yeah, it's so
like,
and you succeed.
Oh,
thank you. Alhamdulillah.
One phrase of Taha's, the prince of the kind of who began Meshka. One phrase of his I love, and I remember sometimes when I'm worried. When for example at the beginning when we're shaking or to relax, he says, you do it, like nobody else is going to make you feel relaxed.
Exactly. This is the important thing. You do it.
It's like you are capable of doing this, you know? When you're feeling really panicky, I have a history of anxiety, and you're just like, I can't control this. I can't.
Yes,
it's you can. Come on. You know? And it's so relaxing because
and this is so inspiring.
Yeah, it is.
What you're saying, it's so inspiring because you are doing this and I do it. And actually, when we are frustrated, we have some tools, and you learn some tools in the school so that I do it. And this releases, suddenly, pam, disappears. This frustration, no?
I love it. We will be there again together.
Olive, I don't know, how do you do it in the space of dance or like this type of things, so that when people get frustrated, how you deal with this?
I mean, it depends on the context.
Okay.
Because I mean, people get frustrated, people get lost, feel vulnerable, people lose interest. So I mean, I don't know, it depends on the person, it depends on the group. Obviously there's a lot of care involved. Also because people are moving through the body, and that sometimes can surface certain things that they didn't realize that I don't know, that there needs to be some sort of way of holding space for that. But sometimes it's really about switching it up, putting on some pop music, or I mean the work that I've made over the last years has had like a heavy sort of undertone. So it's been kind of important to try and switch that up, and to just sort of I don't know.
I mean, all you were saying about spending a lot of time just being together, is useful, isn't it? I think.
It's sort of like having having trust in knowing that it's a process. So going through those sort of like ups and downs, you know, I'm very open about how I feel about it. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing today, therefore like I need some support from you guys. So there is like an openness of I'm not in control of all of this, and none of us are, and we don't really know how this is going to pan out, but we have to sort of trust that all of those ebbs and flows are a part of it, and that is what makes the work what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, so specifically I'm not sure, but it's that sort of awareness of the way that I work that aids those sort of, I don't know, situations, because they do happen. They happen to like all of us, everyone in the room.
Yeah.
There's always a day where someone's crying, or someone's like, I don't know, you know, not necessarily always crying, but sometimes. Because it can be, you know, there's yeah, the body's going through a lot. It's also tired. Like, everyone gets really tired.
Just need to rest.
Exactly. Yeah, it's knowing when to push and knowing when to say, okay, let's
leave it for today.
Let's put an end.
It's acceptable. I mean, halas, it's enough for today, and I need to rest. My body needs to rest, and allow also ourselves to rest and to go into this vulnerability, because many times we are like going, and then we can injure ourselves. It happened to me many times. I went so far that I injured myself before an exam of Shaolin.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I did the exam as I could, you know, like, no, because I went far away of what my body could do at that moment.
I think I think that's a really good point. And
yes,
it is important to say, you know, like, yeah, the classes are not, we don't like go in and like glow, you know, golden yellow, do we? I mean, they are quite mashka, like there are times I always go, but there are 1 or 2 classes where I've left before the partner work, because I thought I can just about hold myself together, but with a partner, I don't think I'm gonna approach this class in the right way, you know?
Yeah.
And it was very nice that you told me today I cannot work with a partner, because you recognize yourself that you cannot do it, and you left. It was very nice, and like that you could deal with that also, and you could be honest with yourself that, okay, my body gets still here, I cannot continue. It's fine.
It's good to know that, isn't it?
But I mean, it's also important to state, I mean, because some people don't know that, and so then you sort of sometimes have to state that, you know, you give them the agency that this is all within their means. Like, and you go as far as you want to go. So
maybe it goes back to what we were saying about, you know, when I said control your mind and you said lead, you know, I think a lot, if it's something we feel that we should do, knowing when it's right to say, this is not what I should be doing today, or that it's not right for me to do this today.
Yeah.
There is a judgment of yourself in front of others. I should go beyond because of the others are gonna, or because the others are gonna think that I am not able to do that, and you put yourself into that, and you start to auto-judge yourself. I didn't do that, I couldn't do this today, I left the class, instead of accept, okay, today my body cannot go far away and cannot like do this type of exercise. I will stay and I will take a rest. This is a yin also, yin and yang, no? Putting yourself in a state of yin and calm and rest. This is important to be able to receive and to be able also to empty yourself. Because we are nowadays, we are running, we have so many things in our thoughts, we have to do, we should do, we need to do. And then it is too much yang energy that we create excess in our organs. That's why the Qigong is so helpful for us, because this harmonizes this yang excess that is in our bodies. So it like these spaces with the Qigong and Tai Chi allows us to rest a bit into the yin, into the, okay, today I need more meditation movement so that my body calm down, calm these thoughts.
Yeah.
That's,
And
yeah.
it's able to receive, to empty your cup. This is very important sentence in martial art. Empty your cup to be able to receive.
See that,
If you are full, you cannot receive. The same in dance. If you are full with external movement, you cannot receive what is beyond external movement. You cannot receive the feeling, your internal feeling. If you are always out, like thinking what the people think of your dance, thinking what the people think of your performance, you are out.
Yeah.
What happened? Where is you?
Yeah.
In that sense? Yeah.
True.
I don't know if you relate or if you
Yeah,
resonate with this.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, and it's so distracting to be in that sort of mentality. But yeah, I think that's why Qigong was so important, and why it came at such an interesting time, because you know, I was at the end of my training auditioning for companies that I thought I kind of wanted to be a part of, and you know, you're going and you're being judged by people, and they're gonna give you a job or not, and it's yeah, you can be in that sort of mindset. And then I sort of came across Qigong, and I was like, cool, I can like calm those sort of thoughts, and yeah, I mean, it helped me to sort of realign actually what I also sort of wanted,
yeah, that's true.
which is really useful.
Actually, the Qigong, as you were saying, that allows to ground, and we were talking about this point that is in the kidney one, that is in the sole of the foot. It's very important because the kidneys connect with our fears, like they are related to the emotion of the fear. So as long as every morning, for me, when I feel afraid, when I have new project and I feel afraid, because we all feel afraid and frustrated and many times. So what I do, and it's very, for me, the first movement in the morning, every day, I stand and I connect to that point, because that point roots to the earth, is the wooden point of the kidney 1, and it releases our fears. As long as I am connected with that, my channel, my meridian of the kidneys are gonna function, and it's going to be stimulated, and somehow it's gonna allow me to also release these fears that I feel. And it's beautiful. Like, try to do that every morning. I like when we were doing Tai Chi, Qigong, Georgina, I remember that I explained to you this several times.
Oh,
I think that might be a good place to stop, because it's kind of we kind of went round to the beginning.
We came back to the beginning, good.
So, yeah.
A circle, a spiral, like in Tai Chi. So we come back to this point, and I found this morning something very special that my sister gave it to me some years ago when I was starting this new process with myself. You can see, this is for the books. I don't know how to say the book.
Bookmark, yeah.
Okay. And it says in Spanish, I would say this sentence is beautiful, from Pablo Neruda. ¿Qué aprendió el árbol de la tierra para conversar con el cielo? And this sentence goes back to our Qigong. What does the tree of light learn from the earth to converse or to talk with the heaven? And just found it this morning.
Nice.
So thank you to my sister, Noemi, that gave it to me in this period of my life. And now maybe like we close the conversation with this.